said, this is a series, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Lynn. She is on the call as well today, and she did our presentation in January, and she did an amazing job doing one for creating a workspace that you will love. If you're interested in that, I have uploaded that to my website, letsbuyahome.ca. And I'll leave that website address at the end, and you can go up there and view that one. This also is being recorded, and it'll be uploaded to my videos on my website as well. So without further ado, I have got the lovely Audrey Brown here from Coco Bistro. She is on 40 Development Drive in Kingston, and I have put her Instagram, which her account is Chocolate with Love. Her website is cocobistro.ca, and her Facebook page is My Coco Bistro. So you can find her in all those places, and she showcases an amazing selection of chocolates, but you can walk into her shop and shop till you drop.
So I get to talk to myself. Thank you, Diane. So yes, I'm not Diane, I'm Audrey, and I'm a chocolatier, as Diane said. Diane is actually my realtor who helped me get this place here on 840 Development Drive, and I'm forever grateful because she made a very bumpy road much, much easier, because we had to deal with some not so great people in the process. But anyway, we're all good. So a big part of my business here, yes, I make chocolate. Yes, I love serving people here, and I love playing with chocolate. It's a very new thing to me. It's only been 6 years now that I've been doing it, but I love it. And I'm really glad to bring it to people. I like to demystify chocolate because it's amazing how many people I hear say, oh my God, chocolate's so hard. I just buy the candy melts. I don't want to have to temper chocolate. I don't know. Yes, I failed many, many times, and I continue to fail, even though I've been doing it professionally for 6 years. That shouldn't scare you. Chocolate is temperamental. It relies a lot on your environment, on temperature, on how you, if you stir it or not. There's a lot of variables. It's not hard. I really, really emphasize this is not hard. I have been holding workshops here in this kitchen before COVID, and had the opportunity to work with so many people who were so afraid and just thought that it was going to be pretty close to rocket science. And then after we did it, it was like, okay, I'm going home, I'm going to do it. So at the end of this, I know you're all kind of you might be in your pajamas and watching this, or maybe having a glass of wine. I wish I could join you. But what I want to be able to do in about 20 minutes is show you that, yes, it can take 20 minutes to do. You don't need any fancy equipment. And at the end, I'm going to be offering a little package so that if you want to do some Easter chocolate at home for your family, for gifts for people, I can offer you a little package to be able to do it at home. So this is just your chance to relax, though. A very little brief bio on me is I've been a chocolatier for 6 years. Previously, I was a speech language pathologist at St. Mary's of the Lake Hospital. And I had a stroke when I was at the hospital and working. And after that, I continued to work for a bit, but realized that it was a bit too much. And I said, okay, I'll start my own business. I got into chocolate because chocolate is wonderful. It's something that everyone loves. And I'm really excited about working with it and bringing it to you. So I just start off all of my workshops just kind of to demystify everything about chocolate. This is what chocolate starts out as. These are cacao beans from the cacao tree, and they're roasted And if I were to eat one right now, they're a little bitter, but really, really chocolatey. And this is why I'm very passionate about working with Belgian chocolate, quote unquote, real chocolate, because the stuff you get at the bulk barn called candy melts or compound chocolate, anything like that, is about as far away from this as you can get. Often candy melts have absolutely no chocolate in it or no cocoa in it. And they might have palm oil, other things, wax, that are not meant to be in chocolate. This is easy, and I'm going to prove it because I'm not using my tempering machines right now. I'm going to be using what you would be using at home. So you have two options when you're at home doing tempering of chocolate. Is you can use a microwave like I have here. I have a gigantic one because I melt large amounts of chocolate at a time. But you can also use your a pot. So here I have a pot with a little bit of water in it. And if I was to melt my chocolate, of course, I would never put it in the pot because you know what happens. It turns gross. Chocolate's not meant to get any higher than about 120 degrees. So you don't want your stovetop and your chocolate to make contact. I put, when I use what this is called a bain-marie, so I would heat up the water, get it to boiling, then turn it down to the lowest point, put my chocolate in the top in the bowl, and don't let the bottom of the bowl touch the water. And then I can just let it melt passively. I won't do that here because that takes a little longer. But that's what you can do. That's one option. Second option is you have a microwave safe bowl and you put your chocolate in it. I use Belgian Callebaut chocolate, and this is in the form of chips. It's easy to melt, takes almost no time. And your magic number, at least with my microwave, is 45 seconds at a time. So you never want to take this big bowl. Okay, it takes about 4 minutes to melt chocolate. You don't want to put it in for 4 minutes. It's going to burn. So you do it 45 seconds at a time, at least with my microwave. I'll show you what it looks like at each stage. We're going to put it through about 5 passes of 45 seconds. So here's number 1. So after my first 45 seconds, I'm just going to shake the bowl and put it back in. The turntable always goes up. All right. While people are waiting, I just want to go through a couple other things that might be useful when you're doing this. So you have your microwave safe bowl. You're going to need a scale, just a regular kitchen scale is always handy. It's not absolutely essential, but it is handy. You have, I love using a silicone spoon because the chocolate doesn't stick to it afterwards. And if it does, it's really easy to take off. Wood is terrible. Don't use a wooden spoon, please. Essential tool is a probe thermometer. And I'll get right back. Think about why a candy thermometer would not be appropriate. And I'll be right back. I'm going to jiggle my chips yet. They're still not stirrable. As you see, they're still chips. They're getting a little bit melty. All right, so we have the probe thermometer. Why this is better than a candy thermometer is candy thermometers are meant to measure 200 degrees, 300 degrees, 400 degrees. Here we're going for 113 to 80, which does not come up on your candy thermometer. It's actually right at the bottom. It says chalk on the bottom of your candy thermometer, and that's useless. You cannot use that. So a probe thermometer is absolutely essential. I don't go anywhere without one. They're great. So I think that's it as far as things that you need. There's my third beet. And now it's coming to a point where I'm going to have to start stirring it because it's starting to liquefy. And as you see, I've used this bowl today before. It's not imperative that you have a chocolate covered bowl like I do, but it doesn't hurt. The great thing about chocolate is the more you work with it, the more you have around that's in pieces, you can remelt them and use them again. There's never a failure. If it's a failure, I'm going to show you a failure that happened to me the other day. Yes, I fail. But we're going to succeed today. So put this in for the fourth time. And our goal is to get the chocolate to 113 degrees. Chocolates differ if you use dark milk or white. It also can vary, but generally 113 will guarantee that your crystals, your cocoa butter crystals, chocolate is half cocoa butter, half cocoa in the bean. And then when they process it, it's more or less of each cocoa butter and cocoa. I'm using milk chocolate here right now, which is definitely has added milk powder and more cocoa butter than cocoa, but that's what you want with milk chocolate. And then right now you'll see it's almost completely melted. I can see a few chips in there. If I kept stirring, I would see that they'll melt, but I'm going to use my probe thermometer and it says 102 right now. So if I put it for one more bout of 45 seconds, it's going to be completely melted. Now, the question that I always had was, well, can't I just, all the chips are gone, can I just leave it at 108 degrees? And my answer is always no, because what you want to make sure with this first melting is that all the crystals are melted. That means that when you temper, when you build the new crystals, they're all going to be stable. I know this sounds, it's a lot of science, it's a lot of technicality. All you want to care about is that it's 113 degrees. That's all you want to know. All right. I think in Celsius, it's something like 42. Okay. So now, according to my thermometer, I've gone way over. I've gone to 124. Is it ruined? No, it's fine. But it's completely melted. All right, so this is melted and it's rather hot right now. So I want to cool it down fast. How do I do that? I add more chocolate. Woohoo! So because I started with a kilo of chocolate, what I want to do, well, it never does that. Okay. All right. I'm going to tear that. And I'm just going to add some chocolate just to cool it down to 100 and I want to aim for 108, 110 degrees. Why do I want that? Okay, so when you have your chocolate, you can go and read a book, watch TV, let it naturally get down to 108. You don't have to add more chips, but this is definitely faster. And again, I do this every day. Oh, I mentioned I failed the other day. Okay, you want to see that? All right. So what does temper mean? Temper means that the cocoa and the cocoa butter are bonded, the crystals are formed, and they form what's called beta 5 crystals. Whatever. All that means is your chocolate is going to be shiny when it's cool. And it doesn't have to be frozen or refrigerated in order to get that cold, that shine. So this little bunny is an example of a tempered bunny. He's shiny. If I break off his little ears, they will snap. It's nice and dense. The chocolate is dense inside. It's not all cloudy. And it's really, it's beautiful when you look at it. This is another example. I'm just going to put on my glove. And I'm going to stir my chocolate at the same time. It's always nice to stir. This is one of my other little bunnies. It's a real cutie pie. And so he's, again, very shiny. I've used white chocolate with some cocoa butter, colored cocoa butter in it, so that it makes the color. That's not fake, it's the real thing. I don't use those sugar eyes. Those are so gross. So what does failure look like? If you have tried to temper and failed, this is probably what you had. You have this gray, streaky quality. This is my Shut the Front Door bar, which has pretzels and almonds. And I had checked the temper of my chocolate. I had worked with it, and then just something went kablooey. It got too warm and got out of temper. And that's why I got this awful gray. So it's not shiny. It doesn't look very appetizing. It's still delicious. It's still edible. What I often end up doing is I sell it for half price or reduced price. But to me, it just doesn't look good.
So Audrey, once you get to that stage, if it's too hot,
right?
Is it a matter of just bringing it down and then you're fine and you don't get that white stuff? Or once you get too high, you will get the white stuff?
When you get too high, if you lose the temper, meaning it got warm, then you have to re-temper it. You have to get it back.
Okay.
So right now, after putting in that scoop of chips, I have 102 degrees. So that's a little better. I would like it to be a little bit warmer, just so that I can create really, really good crystals, but I'm aiming for about 105, 108. So I was just a little overzealous adding that chocolate. Anyway, okay, so the last stage in tempering is, now we have melted chocolate. This is what I refer to as melted. Now we want to crystallize it or pre-crystallize it. So we want to build the crystals up and allow it to temper. So ideally, and what I would provide in my package for you is I would give you 1 kilo of chips and then 20% of 1 kilo of chips, which is how many grams? That's part of the test. So I would put aside that 200 grams of chips in it. So that's 10%. So 400 grams. That is what you would add as what we call seed, S-E-E-D, seed, just like planting a seed. Why is it called seed? I'm just going to get some more. Because your chips are tempered. They have there are the crystals. If I put this in when it's 120 degrees, they melt. But if I put it in when it's about 105, 108 degrees, they're going to melt, sort of, but they're going to create stable crystals. They're not going to just melt away and create cloudy chocolate. They are going to actually be the building blocks for our tempered chocolate. So when you add 20% of your initial volume in chips to your, and I'm eyeballing it. I do that, you don't have to. I'll pre-measure it for you. And what you want to do when you add your seed chips is you want to smoosh down. That's the technical term. Smoosh down on the chips as you're stirring. And the key to creating, because right now this bowl wants to become a chocolate bar. all of this chocolate, its goal right now is to become a solid mass. And we don't want it to be solid, right? We want to be able to work with it. So our goal temperature is 86 degrees. So we've gone from 113, cooled it off a little bit to, it was a bit low at 102. But if I had it back up to 106, then I add my 20% of seed, and then I'm smushing down, constantly agitating, and it won't turn into a chocolate bar right away. It's going to go down to about 86 degrees. If it goes lower than that, that's fine. Actually, ideally, you want to get it down to 84 and then heat it back up to 86, but you can skip that step. Don't worry. And if I give you if you want to go for the package that I would send you or have ready for you, is there would be no guesswork. It would all be pre-measured. Okay, and there would be instructions, which always help. All right, so as you'll see, there's still a few, I don't know if you can see it, but there are still some chips in there. So I still want to smush and move the chocolate. Temperature, agitation, that's all you need. The right temperature and constant agitation. This is really fun to do with kids, by the way, because they love this part of the job. I once had a workshop in here with a family of 8 people with 3 kids under 10. I thought it was going to be a nightmare, but it was actually really great. They were really into it. So don't worry if you see 1 or 2 odd chips, just keep going. Chances are they are going to melt. I don't use that word a lot when I'm tempering, but okay. So what you're going to notice when you've got to this stage, I'm going to take the temperature, and it is, wow, 86 degrees. It's magic, I tell you. Okay, so a few things you'll notice that you've done a good job is that it's thicker than it was when you had the melted chocolate. It's very, very shiny, just on its own. I'll do the woo. I have this on my phone, by the way, so it's very strange. And when you sort of write your name on the top of the chocolate, it stays. The drizzles stay. So that's another way that you know that it's tempered. But are you going to rely only on that? No, I won't let you do that. Hang on one sec. Another really great tool when you work with chocolate is parchment paper. And what I do, absolutely every single batch of chocolate I work with every single day, is I check my temper. So what does that mean? I put some chocolate on my parchment paper and I just pop it in my fridge. And voila, according to science, this is about 5 minutes later. I have my temper check, comes off my parchment paper, and it has a snap. Did you hear that? It's perfectly tempered. When I look at the piece, there are no streaks, there's no cloudiness. That means that the cocoa and the cocoa butter have formed the crystals that will lead to perfectly shiny chocolate. It's a miracle. Okay. Any questions?
I would like to know, how would you maintain the temperature, like for the 5 minutes that you're waiting to check?
Okay, good question. As long as you keep it agitated, like I'm doing right now, you're going to be what's called at a working temperature. It's not going to get any hotter because you're not using any heat nearby. It's going to cool. So yes, it's going to get thicker and thicker as you work with it. But the type of chocolate that I use does not solidify in the bowl right away. It takes quite a bit of time. I can still work with it. I can mold it. I can pour it on things. I could make truffles with it, and it'll still stay pretty fluid, and around 86, 88 degrees is that perfect little window that you can work with it, and it won't go out of temper. The only reason it would go out of temper is if there was a sudden heat source, so your heat came on, or somebody had a hairdryer nearby. It really can't get hotter, but yeah, it's a pretty good bet that once you have it at 86 and work with it, it'll stay pretty good. If you notice that it's getting a little too thick, pop it back into your microwave, or if you're using the bain-marie method, put it back over the water for a few minutes. Just keep stirring it. Use your probe thermometer. Check that you're not going over too hot, but stay in that 86 realm. Does that answer?
Yes, thank you so much.
Perfect. Okay. So the last part of this, and we're at 7:40, so we started a bit late, but I'll just show you how, and included in the package that I would put together for your Easter like that. My husband was calling me there. All right. So I'm going to put some chocolate into a reusable piping bag. This is a disposable one. And I would include one in the package so you'd have everything. And I'm just going to use a little bit for demonstration purposes. And I am doing some Easter lollies, and I would include this mold in the package. And what these are hobby grade molds. They're very accessible. They're very inexpensive. I use a few here. I use mostly professional molds, but this is good for lollipops. And I just put some in my piping bag and pipe it into my mold. And I hit it against the table so that there's no bubbles. Then I take my lollipop stick and put it in the mold, and I would put it in the refrigerator just for about 5-10 minutes. It doesn't have to stay in there very long. That's just to let it set up. Will it solidify at room temperature? Absolutely. As long as you have a nice cool room temperature, it's not 85 degrees. It shouldn't be over 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, my thermometer here is the thermostat's in Fahrenheit too, but it's no higher than, would it be 18? 16? And anyway, once that's solidified, you have a nice bunny head. So ta-da, that is how we temper chocolate.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. If you, again, I've put my website address up on the screen there. If you want to take a look at Lynn's presentation from last month and Audrey's, and these, again, each month I'll be having something different. If you want to be included in future ones, I will be putting, you can contact me to add you to the list for next month. Or just watch for my Facebook page. I usually put it on there, or if you're on my email list, I usually put it in through there. So